Welcome to my channel. Subscribe and enjoy daily stories about cheating, revenge, and relationship advice. The gymnasium was a shimmering spectacle of the season's most anticipated event, the winter formal. Twinkling fairy lights draped from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over the crowd. The scent of roses mixed with the aroma of the hors d'oeuvres that lined the refreshment table. Students dressed in their finest gathered, dancing to a rhythmic blend of pop and classic hits. I scanned the room, looking for Emily. Her red dress had been the talk of the evening, and I had been eager to see her light up the floor with her usual grace. We had planned to meet at the refreshment table, where she had promised me a dance later. But as I approached the table, she was nowhere to be seen. "Matt, have you seen Emily?" I called out to Matt, who was chatting animatedly with his date, Jessica. Matt glanced around, his smile fading slightly. "I haven't seen her in a bit." "I thought she was with you." "I haven't seen her since we parted ways," I said, my voice tinged with worry. "She's not answering her phone, either. I'm getting a bad feeling." Matt's expression turned serious. "Let's look for her. She can't have gone far." We began our search, weaving through the throngs of students. Matt and I approached a group of friends near the punch bowl. "Hey, has anyone seen Emily?" I asked them. One of them, Lisa, shook her head. "Not since she came to grab a drink." "Did you try the restrooms?" I nodded, and Matt and I headed in that direction. The line was long, but I asked around anyway. No one had seen her. Frustration gnawed at me. "She's not in the restrooms. Maybe she's backstage or outside." As we made our way to the backstage area, I spotted Coach Williams leaving his office, his face flushed and slightly disheveled. He gave us a curt nod before heading out, and I couldn't shake the unease that his presence added to my growing anxiety. We checked backstage, but Emily wasn't there either. Where could she be? I muttered, rubbing the back of my neck. Just as I was about to give up and call the police, I noticed a door slightly ajar down a quiet hallway. It led to the coach's office, a place I rarely visited. A strange sound drifted through the crack, something akin to a muffled gasp. "Matt, I think I heard something," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Let's check it out." We approached the door carefully. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the handle. "Are you sure about this?" "Yeah, we need to find out what's going on," Matt replied, his face set with determination. I pushed the door open just enough to peek inside. My heart sank as I saw Emily and Coach Williams in a distressingly intimate moment. Emily was seated on the edge of the desk, her dress rumpled, while Coach Williams's hands were guiding her movements on a violin. It was a bizarre and unsettling scene that I couldn't fully process at first. I pulled back quickly, my breath coming in short, sharp bursts. "Matt, we need to get out of here," I said urgently. "What? What's wrong?" Matt asked, his eyes wide with confusion. I saw Emily and Coach Williams together. It's not right. We need to figure out what to do," I said, my voice trembling. Matt's face turned pale as the realization dawned on him. "We need evidence. If we're going to do something about this, we need proof." Nodding, I steeled myself. "You're right. Let's get out of here and figure out our next move." We left the hallway, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. I had to gather evidence, document everything, and find a way to expose the truth. As we exited the gym, the festive atmosphere seemed hollow, overshadowed by the weight of what I had just witnessed. The day after the winter formal was gray and overcast, reflecting the heavy mood that weighed on me. I had barely slept, consumed by the need to gather evidence and expose the truth about what I had witnessed. I knew the situation was dire, and the only way to address it was by collecting solid proof. I made my way to the school early in the morning, hoping to find the coach's office empty. My heart raced as I approached the door, which was slightly ajar from my previous visit. I took a deep breath and pushed it open, stepping inside with cautious determination. The office was cluttered with papers, trophies, and a large desk strewn with personal items. I began sifting through the contents, careful not to disturb anything too obviously. The office had a faint smell of cigars, a detail that made me uneasy. I was going through a stack of files when I heard the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Panic surged through me. I quickly ducked behind a large cabinet, holding my breath. The footsteps grew louder before fading away. I peeked out to see a janitor passing by, oblivious to my presence. Once I was sure the coast was clear, I resumed my search. I found a small locked drawer in the desk. After some fiddling, I managed to open it, revealing a collection of personal notes and a journal. The journal was particularly alarming. Its pages detailed interactions with students, including Emily, and hinted at a disturbing pattern of behavior. "This has to be it," I muttered, taking photos of the journal entries and the incriminating notes. The phone rang suddenly, and I jumped, my heart pounding. I had forgotten to silence my own phone. I scrambled to silence it and checked the caller ID. It was Matt. "Hey, Michael," Matt's voice crackled through the speaker. "Did you find anything?" "Yeah, I've got some damning stuff," I said, keeping my voice low. "I'm photographing everything now. This journal, it's filled with details about Emily and other students. It's disgusting." "Great work," Matt said, his tone both relieved and concerned. "But we need more. You mentioned Coach Williams's past. Have you looked into that?" "I'm on it," I said, closing the drawer carefully. "I'll dig into his history and see what I can find." After I left the office, I started my research on Coach Williams. It didn't take long to find old news articles and records of previous allegations. I compiled the information, including testimonies from former students who had faced similar issues. I felt a surge of anger as I read their accounts, knowing they mirrored what I had witnessed. A few days later, I met with Matt at a local coffee shop, where we went over the evidence I had gathered. "Okay, so we've got the affair, and we've got Coach Williams's history," Matt said, sipping his coffee. "What's next?" "I'm drafting a report," I replied, spreading out the documents and photographs on the table. "I'm going to focus on the affair and the coach's past misdeeds. I'll send it anonymously to the school board and some local media." Matt looked over the documents, his brows furrowing. "This is solid. But be careful. If they trace it back to you." "I know," I said, nodding. "I'll be careful." With the report finalized, I prepared to send it out. I made sure to use a public computer at the library to avoid any traceable activity. The report was detailed and included everything I had uncovered: the affair, Coach Williams's previous misconduct, and the school's failure to act on prior complaints. As I hit send, a sense of relief washed over me. The truth was out there now, and I hoped it would be enough to prompt action. What I didn't anticipate was how quickly and explosively the scandal would unravel, setting the stage for a confrontation that would change everything. The scandal erupted with the force of a tidal wave. The local news stations picked up the story quickly, and the school board was thrust into the spotlight. Headlines blared about Coach Williams's misconduct and the unsettling details of his affair with Emily. The community was in an uproar, and the winter formal, once a symbol of celebration, had become synonymous with scandal. I watched the news reports with a heavy heart, knowing that Emily's name was now tied to the controversy. The public fallout was swift. Coach Williams was suspended, and Emily became the focus of a media frenzy that distorted her personal life and cast a long shadow over her reputation. I decided to confront Emily, hoping to find some answers and offer closure. She agreed to meet me at a small, quiet park on the edge of town. The park was eerily empty, the cold wind rustling through the bare trees as we sat on a weathered bench. "Michael," Emily said, her voice trembling as she approached. Her face was pale, and her eyes were red from crying. "I didn't think you'd want to see me." "I didn't want to, but I needed to understand," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "What happened, Emily? How did this go so wrong?" Emily took a shaky breath. "I didn't realize what was happening until it was too late. Coach Williams, he manipulated me. I thought I could trust him. I'm so sorry, Michael. I didn't want any of this to happen. I looked away, struggling to process her words. I saw what was happening in the office. It wasn't just manipulation. It was an abuse of power. You're not the only one affected by this. I know, Emily said, her voice breaking. And I regret everything. I wish I could undo it, but I can't. I just need to know if there's any chance for us. I felt a pang of sympathy, but I knew that things couldn't go back to how they were. I can't be with you anymore. The trust is broken, and the damage is too great. I need to focus on making sure this doesn't happen again. Emily's face crumpled, and tears streamed down her cheeks. Please, Michael. I don't know what to do. I'm so lost. I'm sorry, I said, standing up. I have to do what I think is right. You should focus on dealing with this fallout and finding help. As I walked away, I heard her sobs behind me. I felt a mix of sorrow and resolve. The personal cost of exposing the truth was high, but it was necessary to bring about change. In the weeks that followed, the investigation continued to unfold. The media coverage and public outrage created a storm that forced the school board to take action. The community demanded reforms, and pressure mounted for a comprehensive review of school policies. I found myself involved in the growing movement for change. I met with other victims and advocates, gathering additional testimonies and evidence to support the push for systemic reform. The revelations about Coach Williams and his behavior had opened a can of worms, revealing deeper issues within the school's administration. One evening, I was at a community meeting where parents, students, and educators gathered to discuss the scandal. The room was packed, and the atmosphere was charged with emotion. I spoke to a group of parents, explaining the evidence I had gathered and the need for reform. Thank you for coming forward, Michael, one of the parents, Mrs. Thompson, said as she shook my hand. It takes a lot of courage to stand up like this. We need to make sure our children are safe. I just want to make sure this never happens again, I replied, feeling a sense of purpose. As the investigation progressed, Coach Williams was eventually arrested on charges of misconduct and abuse of power. The scandal had exposed a web of systemic issues, leading to a broader push for reform within the school district. I watched the changes take shape with a bittersweet sense of accomplishment. The journey had been difficult, and the personal costs had been high, but seeing the community rally for justice and reform gave me a renewed sense of hope. While the scars of the scandal would remain, I knew that the fight for change had been worth it. The aftermath of the scandal had left the community in turmoil, but it also sparked a much-needed movement for change. The school district was under intense scrutiny, and the public demanded a thorough investigation and reforms to prevent future misconduct. I found myself deeply involved in the ongoing efforts to address the systemic issues that had been exposed. The first meeting of the newly formed Oversight Committee was held in the school's library. The room was filled with concerned parents, teachers, and community leaders, all eager to discuss the changes needed to ensure the safety and well-being of students. I sat at the back of the room, preparing to present the evidence and testimonies I had collected. As the meeting began, Dr. Reynolds, the head of the committee, addressed the group. Thank you all for coming. This is an important step toward making sure that our schools are safe and that our students are protected. We need to address the issues head-on and implement changes that will prevent these kinds of abuses from happening again. I raised my hand, and Dr. Reynolds nodded for me to speak. I'd like to share the evidence I gathered during the investigation, I said, stepping up to the front of the room. The files and testimonies reveal a pattern of misconduct that extends beyond Coach Williams. We need to address not just individual cases but also the systemic failures that allowed these abuses to continue. There were murmurs of agreement and concern as I presented the documents and recounted the details of the misconduct. Parents and community members listened intently, their faces reflecting a mixture of anger and determination. After the presentation, Mrs. Thompson, a vocal advocate for reform, approached me. Michael, your work has been crucial in bringing these issues to light. What can we do next? We need to push for comprehensive policy changes, I replied. The school board needs to implement stricter oversight, better training for staff, and a clear, confidential reporting process for students. We also need to ensure that there are resources available for victims. Mrs. Thompson nodded. I'll make sure to include these points in our next meeting with the school board. We're determined to see these changes through. As the days turned into weeks, the community's response was overwhelmingly supportive. The school board began implementing reforms, including updated policies and new training programs designed to address and prevent misconduct. The focus shifted to creating a safe environment for students and ensuring that their voices were heard. One evening, I met with Matt at our favorite cafe. The atmosphere was relaxed, a stark contrast to the tension of the past months. Looks like things are moving in the right direction, Matt said, sipping his coffee. The school board seems committed to making changes, and the community's been really supportive. It's a start, I said, nodding. But it's going to take time to see the full impact of these reforms. I'm just glad we're making progress. Matt smiled. I'm proud of you, man. You took a terrible situation and turned it into something positive. I appreciated his words, but I couldn't shake the bittersweet feeling that lingered. The personal sacrifices had been significant, and the scars from the ordeal were still fresh. Yet, seeing the community rally for change and knowing that future students might be protected from similar abuses provided a sense of closure and purpose. As I walked through the school one afternoon, now noticeably quieter and more respectful, I saw the changes taking effect. New posters promoting student safety and awareness were displayed in the hallways, and staff members were seen participating in training sessions. I ran into Principal Stevens, who had been a crucial ally in pushing for reform. Michael, she said, offering a warm smile, I wanted to thank you for your efforts. The changes we're implementing are because of your hard work. It was a team effort, I replied. I'm just glad to see things moving in the right direction. Principal Stevens nodded. We still have a long way to go, but your dedication has made a significant impact. As I left the school, I felt a renewed sense of hope. The battle for justice had been difficult and had taken a toll on my personal life, but the progress we had made was a testament to the power of standing up for what is right. The community's efforts to address the issues and implement reforms were a crucial step toward a better future, and I felt a sense of accomplishment and closure knowing that we had made a difference.